everybody. I am Joe Gallimore, Director of Investment Management with Argent Bridge Advisors. Welcome back to another Cup of Joe segment. And I have to apologize. Sorry about the delay from the last Cup of Joe. I was very under the weather for a little bit there. Totally lost my voice, but now I'm back and very excited to give you a recap and share some of our thoughts at Argent Bridge on the very good start to 2023. So all indexes had an excellent January. U.S. stocks were up between 6 and 10%. International and emerging stocks were up 6 and 8% respectively, and even bonds recovered about 3% in January. So that was great to see. Mash all this up together, and we see that a 60-40 portfolio would have returned just under 6% for the month of January, which is wonderful. Now, all those numbers that I mentioned mean that the markets, depending on the various asset classes, have recovered anywhere from a third to a half of their decline in 2022. And it would be even more if we look at it from the actual market bottoms that occurred in around mid-October. So we can all agree this was a great start to the year. However, there's always a but the but in this case is not so bad. But this, we feel, is a good lesson in not getting ahead of ourselves. The market so far this year is charging ahead based on a couple of good inflation prints from the end of last year, one showing of moderation by the Fed in its interest rate hiking policy, and now two, if you count the one very end of January, and some seemingly innocuous or even positive feeling economic data that came out in Q4. But the fact is that right now, a lot of thought leadership out there, meaning CEOs of big corporations and economic investment strategists, they're all saying, beware. Under the surface of all this data, there's lots of business economic growth that is still slowing and softening. They're saying that we are nowhere near out of the woods as far as slowing growth. So recession is still a very real possibility. Now, that contrasted with the facts I shared at the beginning of this Cup of Joe, let's boil this all down to say that business leadership is cautious and they see lots of work still yet to be done. With their comments, they're not making a stock market commentary, but the market is acting very optimistically. And that is not matching what the leaders in the trenches are reporting. So that's why we say this is a good lesson in not getting ahead of ourselves. So that's where we are now. Looking forward, we at Argent Bridge, we still think it's likely that there's more volatility to be had in the stock market. So we say, just remain prepared for it. The economic data isn't quite ready to signal a bottoming trend right now. So that's why we're expecting more volatility. And we always know, and we've seen a lot this past year, that surprise headlines can always shock a fast moving stock market. But the positives in the data is that we're already starting to see these temporary shifts in the tide. Lots of the tough policy decisions and the financial pain that we've all endured seems to be working. So we expect to see that continuing. Now, to borrow from the unending euphemisms I've heard ad nauseum on lots of webinars lately, let's say, don't count your chickens before they've hatched. Let's not get out over our skis. Beware, this is the eye of the hurricane, and don't buy the bounce. Those make me snicker every time I hear them. You could almost probably do a drinking game to them if you're so inclined. But the reality is that right now they are all pretty relevant. Markets historically start their sustainable recovery before the economy does. But the data right now in the economy is still flashing yellow. So tempering your expectations on the market return near term is a very good idea. You'll do yourself a lot of favors in that respect in the not so unlikely event that meaningful volatility does return. So if you need any help tempering those expectations, or if you have any questions about what's going on or anything we've talked about on this recording, please feel free to reach out to me or any of the advisors here at Argent Bridge. Have a wonderful day.